This episode of Bonfireside Chat is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Good night, everybody.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a impure favorite.
Yes, and this week we are continuing our discussion of Shadow Tower, which is a first-person action RPG developed by From Software and published by Agitech for the PlayStation in 1999.
Mm-hmm. And all the generalities and stuff, this episode will be a little bit breezer than the last one because we're not talking about generalities.
Yeah.
So again, as we always say when we have multiple parts, even though probably don't need to keep saying this, but go listen to the last one if you haven't. This is a bad episode to start with. So we're picking up right where we left off. We just killed the Ebony Knight, and which sounds like a badass record producer. Like they call me Ebony Knight. I like it. And going into Waterworld.
Yes. Continuing our descent down this Shadow Tower to try and find the Demon King that has raised the town and possibly killed our granny.
Yes. And I was expecting the worst from this area because I already was mad about Fireworld, as we mentioned in the last episode.
And Waterworlds are never good.
Waterworlds are never good. And also when I found out, you right off the bat, you run into our buddy Fat Mole. Mm-hmm. And he says that this place is, the water is acid. And I was like, uh-oh, acid means equipment durability. Is this, I just got off this really annoying, world where I could barely repair my equipment. I'm going to do a whole area where that's the theme. And I was dreading it. And in truth, it's like they give you vaccines and you just take off your shoes and you're more or less okay. It is not nearly as bad as it sounds like. So take off your shoes and you're okay. It's like going to somebody's house.
Yeah.
Be polite.
Here's the thing that people get confrontational. If I walk into their house and they are not a shoes off household, they'll give me shit for taking off my shoes.
I mean, it's probably good to ask.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's where I was leading to. Hey, what are you comfortable with? I'm here to not make waves.
Yeah, put up a sign or something.
Yeah.
But Waterworld have a big sign that says, "Remove your shoes if you please," and also we don't swim in your toilet, so please don't pee in our acid pool.
It'll interact with the ammonia.
Yes,
and make mustard gas.
Yeah.
There are people who have probably died by choking on their own piss.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Probably for recreationally.
Oh, yep.
Somebody probably did that while J&O and
Yep, everything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, 100%. No question.
Yeah, no, that's like a certainty. That's axiomatic.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fat Mel tells you this, and this is kind of Blighttown a little bit. All the water is corrupted. Right. Mm-hmm. And it either poisons you, or dissolves your equipment. And the names of these areas kind of reflect this fact as we enter the impure pool area.
Yes. Which is kind of like this, sewage treatment area. Cause there are these long flat pools full of, acid water.
Poison is poison at this point.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It becomes acid eventually.
Yeah.
This is the poison area.
And they're full of brain slimes.
These things are great. Again,
it's exactly what it sounds like.
Yep. Again, enemies in Shadow Tower are the best. We're into another NPC here, which is kind of rare.
Yeah.
And it's this woman who tends to there's the one pure water source on this whole in this whole toilet factory, but she can't actually distribute it because somebody stole the pitcher of Madhya.
Water pixies stole it.
Yeah, water pixies. So you have to go kill the water pixies, which I love, because in order to get this pitcher to get this really useful healing spring.
Yeah. It's free healing, which is really rare that you just have to walk for. So the only cost
is
time.
In the game.
Yep.
It's really rare. It's singular. So there's one way to heal without using a resource. In this
I was expecting this to be like Kingsfield 4, where you had like a bottle or something.
Yeah, not the case.
Yeah, no, this is just a set piece. It's like the Shrine of Amana.
Yep.
Yep. But the way forward here is to drop down and fight one of my favorite designs. I like the pitcher plants an awful lot, but the worm faces.
Yeah. Yeah, these things are really great.
Which they just look like dudes who have worm heads and bodies and also arms and legs. Like they're nothing but worms, and like they have big, goofy, smiley faces.
Yeah. Yeah. The enemies just being kind of happy.
Yep.
In this game, they get a lot of mileage out of that, I think, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're also introduced to these dementors, like these floating demon kind of things that will curse you from the other side of a wall as you try and go get the floodgate key. And curse is not as devastating as you would think it would be. Like it's
just poison.
Yeah, it's slow poison.
Yeah, it's not even worse than regular poison. Like it's better.
Except it also drains your MP, which may or may not be a problem. I think I use like 5 NP potions in the game.
I never ran low on MP.
Yeah.
Because it's just MP never became a problem. And eventually you get a really powerful amulet that will make your MP slowly regenerate on its own. It takes a little while. It's like the mind amulet, I think. That thing's great.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
I got it and I used it because I saw the effect, but I didn't see what it was called.
Yeah. So up until that point, like it could be a big deal to lose your MP, but it's really not. You just use a different item to cure it.
Yeah.
And this you're getting you're trying to get the floodgate key here.
Yeah.
Is your main goal of that area. And there's after this, like there's this section of the Shadow Tower that opens up into your last main hub. And you can, at this point, you're faced with a really weird choice where you have 4 worlds open to you. This is like the Anne Orlando. Like you've done Anne Orlando. You fought that, the hardest boss in the game. And now you can go to 4 different areas and tackle them in multiple orders.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep doing them in a row because they're roughly have increasing difficulty. But at this point, you can go to the Illusion World, the Beast World, or the Death World.
Right.
If you like.
Yeah. Also, if the way to get down to a lot of these is to actually jump off of a ledge.
Yes.
Which if you can manage that without dying, there's no way back up until you find a warp stone.
Well, you can definitely manage it without dying. I don't think there's fall damage in this game.
No, there's definitely not. But like,
it's either kill box or fine.
Yeah, like, but with these controls, who knows if you're going to be able to land on the ledge you want to?
That's true.
Yep. But yeah, you go into the Sunken River area, which is this big cistern that you need to drain with the floodgate key. And this is kind of presided over by these hilarious cone-headed ogres called Cabosaurs.
Yes.
Cabosaurs. And yeah, they're slow. They hit big. But this is a point where you have to strip naked and go swimming in acid water to trip the floodgate because the way forward is down at the bottom of this pool.
Yeah, and this pool, as you go down there, there's this like crazy spooky statue face on the wall.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what the deal is with that thing either. The stripping naked thing, it's like, oh, I did this in Dark Souls too. Like it's like the basement of Aldius. I remember doing this. It's still kind of a pain to put all your equipment back on.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I guess here I'm just looking for the highest number and not trying to remember which specific set of gear I had on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even then, though, just scrolling through it all, like you're still messing around with Shadow Tower menus.
Yeah.
At this point, it fills the kind of deep pool section with these fish, like these like Innsmouth water knights.
I love these things so much because the bestary says that they just have fish-like armor, but they move like fishmen, like they're hunched over and they're real fluid.
Yeah. And they're also it's a classic knight style enemy in this game where they attack strong, but you need to find their offhand to circle around. And they don't have a shield, I don't believe. Right. So it's you can usually hit them from that side.
Yeah.
But dropping down there is a one-way trip for a long time.
Right.
And the trick, and this is something I wish I had known too, because it takes a long getting back to that healing spring that we just found takes a really long time. And if you're optimizing your playthrough, what I would have done if I was playing this again was to hang out by that healing spring a little while and go back and farm a little bit of the fire zone. Because you'd probably level up a lot.
Yeah.
And be able to have this access to free healing and not use your resources very much.
But instead, you're fighting in fire zone.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you'd be prepared for anything. I would have hit that sweet point of like super empowerment earlier.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm definitely in my groove. I'm fine, but I would have hit that like mega point a little bit sooner because they give you that healing thing and then you just take it away so quick. So you go down there into the watery labyrinth area.
Yeah, and this is one of the more memorable areas in the game for me, actually. Like it's a combination of layout and theming, I think.
Yeah.
You're in this kind of maze of these circular chambers that are connected by tunnels, and this is a place where all of the water is definitely acid, And you only have these small islands that you can stand on that will not do damage to you or damage your boots. Which just take your boots off, dummy.
You gotta take off your boots if you're walking on acid.
Yeah,
you gotta get that shit on your feet. This is I very rarely fought people in this area.
Yeah.
Because you're just taking damage all the time. Like when you're standing on acid, it still hurts you. It's not just your equipment. So like, standing here and making a fight is difficult.
Yeah.
So I ended up just kind of running through this.
Yeah.
And this was an area where I consulted the map, ahead of time.
Yeah.
Just so I wouldn't end up in a bunch of dead ends that I would hate and having to backtrack and losing a lot of resources for no reason.
They're pretty good about putting like good gear at the end of these dead ends, though.
Well, there's that one with that switch, right?
Yes.
Like, and that one's really good.
Yes, that is really good. But otherwise, there's like cunes or there's like equipment to replace whatever has been broken. In some of these places, like you're still like on the balance, losing health and losing resources in a place where it's super constricted because you're on the other side of this one-way gate. But yeah, it's not as terrible as the name would have you would suggest. The switch opens up this gate that gets you into a place that has a bunch of acid vaccines, which is again, I love that idea of an acid vaccine.
Yeah.
But kind of playing into this idea that you have to kill a bunch of enemies to make rarer stuff spawn, like in an almost like Final Fantasy 12 like system. In a weird way. If you kill enough enemies, you cause this great frog to spawn, and if you kill that, which it's really resilient but it doesn't fight back, it drops a warrior bow, which is like super useful.
Yeah, I never got it.
Yeah.
I just know it by reputation. Because I didn't. The guide said to do it, but I was like, I'm not going to farm.
Yeah.
So I moved past that, and you're fine without it. Like you get so powerful at the end of this game. Like, but the warrior bow, the bow is already great.
Yeah.
And having a stronger version of the bow would be incredible. And those are the only 2 bows in the game.
Right. There's an enemy that'll drop it naturally later too, but it is not a guaranteed chance.
Gotcha. Yeah, because we didn't really mention that, but the drops are kind of random. Past the watery labyrinth area, you get into the white rain area, which sounds like a shampoo, but it is actually
it is exactly a shampoo.
Yeah. It's no longer just shampoo for little poor Gary. It is now an area in Shadow Tower.
An area in Shadow Tower that the guy that I looked at that I referenced later says you need to walk into it with your shield up because enemies can attack you before the
thing loads.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a real bummer.
Yeah,
that's a mistake.
Yep, you've got these flying remoras that'll spit acid at you, and you're stepping into a room that is just full of faucets that spit acid. Like
yeah. Yeah, just the acid spray.
Yeah, they might as well just have like a design on the wall that resembles a middle finger.
Yeah. It's super frustrating. I read that in the guide too, and just like went in with my shield up. If I wasn't like, it's not like I kill you or anything. It's just a bummer.
Yeah.
And you kind of move through here, and if you want to, you can zip to the next world here, but you're actually at the boss chamber. And like, we didn't really mention this, just because you can get to the end of the game doesn't mean you can actually open the final door.
Oh yeah,
you have to fight all the bosses, so you might as well do it now. And this one, like, I like this fight, and this is not super hard. The Magi Magus here.
Yeah, and so you fight him in his throne room, and he slings some shit at you about like you'll never be king. And yeah, this is a ranged battle, or it is very, very heavily implying that you ought to do it that way because he teleports. And so you have to kind of catch him in the off rhythm while avoiding his pet Lapras or his pet Loch Ness monster.
Yes, and so I say kill the Lapras.
Oh yeah, kill all 3 of them because new ones spawn in.
Yeah, clear him out of his pets. But I love the idea of him staying in a throne room with these 3. 3 Nessies. And then the trick to him, or like one of the things you can do, is that he's got this throne that you can use as cover. So you can kind of hide and do this little like Call of Duty cover shooter thing with this guy with the bow, which is how I fought him.
Yeah.
And he didn't teleport around if you're not close to him. Like he tends to teleport when you get close to him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. Like they're doing a little bit of that. Like the boss fights in this game are not super great shakes, but I love the idea of them having different kind of ideas behind them. And this is a good one. And they kind of repeat the ideas too. Like they've got 3 ideas. But this one, it's pretty cool to have this run into this fight that felt very different. And it was just like such a fresh, a breath of fresh air where I was like so sick of the fire world. And this one's relatively short and relatively easy comparatively.
Yeah.
To that.
Yeah, he's pretty fragile, and he drops another spell ring. He drops the Caustic Sorcerer ring. So like these have different tiers. Like there's Summoner, Priest, and then Sorcerer, and they unlock different kinds of spells as you go along. So this is going. Don't get rid of your old ones. Because that's extra casts of weaker spells, but like that's still something.
And even yeah, and they also have higher durability as well. So like getting those like kind of high level Swiss Army knife spell rings is pretty great, pretty empowering.
Yeah.
So we're on to we take this teleporter to the illusion world, and illusion world is really funny to me because it's illusion in the basis that it's like based on like 20s stage magic. It feels like it's not like illusion like they're going to be tricks and traps. It's illusions like puppets and toys.
Yeah, it's in the Joe Bluth sense.
Yeah. Yeah, like it is very funny to me. I was really expecting something different, but it's like this is kind of the Sen's Fortress of this game. Like there are those guillotine traps in the hall straight up out of Sen's Fortress. Like,
and there are doors that'll just shut to deny you an area. Like, no, go around.
This is Sen's Fortress for this game, which is kind of crazy. Like From loves their house of traps, and I love it too.
Yeah. So this opens up, you warp into the gloomy domain, which I love that. The world of Eeyores.
Hi-ho.
And this is the purple themed area in these halls. And this is kind of the first time they have you going like up and down stairs. So your path kind of doubles back around. So if you are just keeping track on the X and Y axis, boy, oh boy, do you have a Z to take account for now.
Yeah.
And this is like, it feels like you're covering a lot of distance too. Like this sprawls out more. Than a lot of the other ones do, but there are these chambers that don't really have much in them besides these dancing doll enemies that drain your MP and play an irritating song.
I'm gonna blow your mind, Cole.
Yeah,
you ready to have your mind blown with the real secret of these rooms? So the dolls are not doing that. If you go to the back of the room, there's a window.
Oh, is it the Buglers?
Yeah, there's like a little demon that's playing this song that you see that you have to kill with an arrow. But he's out of distance. Like he's sitting on like a little like throne, like a little stone perch, singing the song that drains your MP from there. So he's singing the song that the little puppet guys dance to.
Oh, that's great.
Like the puppet guys like got moves. Like I love the way these things like get jiggy.
Yeah. So your little Calcabrinas. Yeah.
It's super great. But yeah, it's these like demons that are singing a song, and it's so weird because you're not used to music.
Right.
Like all the music in this game is diegetic. And it's these minstrel demons. They're there. So that's the real irritating song.
Yeah. Huh, neat. That is a cool detail. I didn't spend enough time in there because, they're like...
Because your MP was being drained.
Right.
And there's no treasure.
Yep.
There's not really a reason to be in there other than to see this weird set piece of like a demon playing a song on a far off like perch.
There are these caskets that are that you can open up. Some of them are locked. They have special rings in them and such. But there's a great enemy. These biblically accurate angels. These ring demons that are kind of floating around like weird Pokemon.
Yeah, I love those things.
Yeah,
this is the realm with the real weird gimmick of the key of disillusionment or whatever. So like some of these chests are dropped, but the key of disillusionment is the only key in the game that gets used up when you use it.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to make a random stab at what you want to open up.
Right.
There. And if you're not using a guide, you don't know what's in the chest, and you can't really screw yourself, but you might not get optimal equipment. Right.
So there's always one that there are always two that you can't open up. And one of the chests is empty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or just has like a less desirable piece of equipment in it. And sometimes they just have other keys in them. Like that happens a lot. So you just have to go to the next key. So I didn't spend a lot of time with that because I was hitting my power curve here where I didn't really need to.
Right.
But if you're actually playing this to collect all the items, I can imagine that being a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a cool set piece off to the east side of this map, which is a room that are full of these headless boxing enemies and floating head enemies. I know, right?
Like that. It's like that. They are exactly what it's. They are headless boxers.
And then the floating heads, which I imagine used to belong to them.
Yeah.
And you can clear them out, and there's a body that is pinned to the wall. That when you pull the sword out, it's a pretty good sword. It's like a great sword.
I think it's another silent sword, actually.
Oh, nice.
I think we get another one.
Yeah. And then like a super version of one of these boxers comes out and gets you.
Yeah, there's a huge one. And they behave every once in a while. There are huge versions of enemies in this, and they behave the same, but they're just like intimidating. More intimidating. Like, I found these boxers really hard.
Yeah.
To deal with. Because they have an AoE as well. This is another enemy that they just like slap an AoE on to make it so you can't get close to them. And it's like even as early as this and as long as recent as Bloodborne, like From struggles with ways to stop you from getting behind enemies.
Yeah.
So like in Bloodborne, like every enemy just has a 360 attack. Here, like the way they do that is with an AoE, but there's no wind up or anything. So it's like more annoying.
Yeah, it just triggers it when it doesn't want you to be there. Yep.
Yeah. So after this, you can head into the bewilderment domain. Yeah, exactly. And this is where you want your shield, because there are these masks at the end of these hallways that will fire projectiles at you.
Yes. I enjoyed this little detail because these are almost always covering cues. It's like somebody walked through dropping pennies on the ground and it was setting traps. Like I half expected one of the cues like to just be yanked along by a fishing line or something.
Yeah. Yeah, or under a box with a stick.
Yep. And what's cool is like you're winding up to need to buy a key for the Beast Realm, right? Which you're going to get to here pretty soon. And so this is almost like a last ditch way for them to say like, hey, here's a bunch of money so you don't get stuck trying to farm for this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a cool detail here too, because one of the masks is not hostile. So you just have to like, you're just killing them, but you have to just notice one of them's not shooting at you, and you can talk to it. And it says like, no one's talked to me in years. Which like,
well, because of the company you keep, dog.
Yeah, at some point you cease living in a bad, or having bad neighbors and start living in a bad neighborhood. And he will give you one of these keys of disillusionment, which are really valuable. Yeah.
I did not encounter him.
Oh. Yeah, you probably killed him.
Yeah.
You monster. This is also where you start running into those guillotine traps, which have been the same throughout from Eternal.
Yeah. And you also have these death mages and war demons, mostly in places where you're going to use these keys of disillusionment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Eventually, you get a save point here and an HP potion vendor, and this is probably the first point where you can start feeling like good clearing out your inventory.
Oh yeah,
and that's a huge moment. Like you walk away with 10 HP potions you didn't have before. It's
Flush
awesome.
with cash.
Yeah. Money. I love this next pit or this next part. This is a super cool like mini boss section with these super evocative names here.
Yeah, that's funny because this felt a lot like the Ashen Cavern to me a little bit.
I'm curious. Like we'll never do this where we have like actual video of our playing our games so we can see what the other person's doing differently. But by this point, I felt great. Like I was cool fighting these guys and liked fighting them, and it felt good.
I liked the mini bosses. I just felt like it was kind of these bland rooms with a bunch of stuff coming at me from the dark, and just stuff that I hadn't learned how to fight up to this point. And so that's how they felt similar to me when I was in there, like fighting these mini bosses, like again with these awesome names, Lord Gorther.
Yes, Gorther. It sounds like a Canadian hockey player, like Gorther.
Gorther got 2 minutes for the cherry pick in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was more of a Minnesota. I'm so sorry, Canada.
Right.
But yeah, also Lord Willow-S, fine.
Yep.
But then Lord Fester, who is a jester, Fester the Jester.
Fester the Jester is great. I will brook no argument that Fester the Jester is not amazing in this game.
Yeah, well, he dances like he is very festive.
Like that's what makes this the world of illusion is everyone's dancing constantly, and it's a delightful. I think that like what the difference between this and the Ashen thing for me was just that I could fight the enemies more comfortably.
Oh.
So like I don't like it when they're throwing things at me without giving me a chance to appreciate it so much. But it's like if I'm not dying constantly or that like freaked out about my stuff, I'm more accepting of it.
Yeah,
and I think that was the difference for me.
I also didn't have as much of a problem with the Ashen Cavern as you did. Like in terms of like dying against the stuff or, being diminished by the encounters there. Yeah. It's just one of those weird things. But yeah, so you're going through, you cannot access the warp points, which there's no visual cue for these. You just have to intuit that you're going to walk into the wall at the center of the other side of a room.
There's a visual cue. If you watch the walls will warp. They kind of like, they have like a mirage effect. I
just chalked that up to weird, kind of like, just the way that the PS1 cannot render a flat surface.
It's specific in those areas. Like if you sit and like watch the wall, because I thought it was random at first too. Because the first time it happens, it's like what the fuck. But if you sit there and just kind of stare at it, it does it in ways the other walls do not.
Oh. Yeah, no, I intuited that like if I walk into the center of this room because I was checking for secret entrances and exits too, and just like those are usually at the center. So like I got there, it didn't end up being too much of a problem, but I did not notice that particular detail.
Yeah, it's still kind of irritating, like just the amount of warp puzzles or teleporter kind of puzzles in this. Like this is another area where I feel good about using a map. So you kind of move through here, you get this area that has like a bunch of goofy curse enemies here, and it's super super dark. So if you have the ability to throw open a bottle of light.
Yeah, I love the flying starlight mint shrimps.
Yeah, the mint shrimp.
Yep, they know. Just that they're called warp whores. I don't know what that means, but
they're 100% starlight mints.
Oh yeah,
like they have the same patterning as a starlight mint.
Yeah, they're infested by spirals.
Yeah, exactly. The way that this is an illusion world is that it's like co-designed by Tim Burton, like late Tim Burton. Yeah. It is his his weird I don't know, the Tim Burton aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like, what if it had candy stripes? Genius. So you move through here eventually. It's really hard to figure out exactly what you need to do. It's because of these warp spaces that you have to find. But eventually you can get to the dream domain, which is another boss arena. Like, a lot of these domains are just boss arenas. There's nothing else really to them.
Yeah. And the boss here is Disguise, who is this kind of floating harlequin with a white mask. And she's surrounded by these awesome, like, lost spirits or whatever, these pinwheel masks that float real slow. They were kind of a non-issue during the fight. They couldn't keep up with me as I was trying to keep up with her.
Yeah. I ended up killing the masks in advance, like from a distance, and then fighting her. She is a lot like so I have found her to be less teleport happy. Like there's definitely some weird RNG stuff going on, because this for me was like I got up close and personal and fought her.
No.
As opposed to doing a ranged attack.
Yeah,
she didn't teleport and she didn't AoE me that much.
Yeah, she was easier to chase definitely than Magi Magus. But like she would, like when I get close and do enough damage, she would AoE and then teleport away.
Yeah. I think that Magi Magus is meant to be impossible to do that too.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the whole idea behind that character is like you have to do a ranged combat thing, and if you don't have the ability to do it, fuck you.
Yeah.
This one, I think there's more of an option.
Yeah, it's more meant to be like a chase here. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but like I dig the theming, and this is almost like in a church almost, like this like a chapel kind of thing.
It's a little bit like the doll, the false idol.
Yeah.
After this, you get to Monster World, which the Beast World. The chronology of which and the history of its localization is a legend. The Beast World here, which like has invisible enemies.
Yeah.
It's kind of beasty.
A little bit. But like it's not beast in the sense that like Bloodborne has beasts. Like most of the beasts are reptiloid. Like like this is like Kingsfield, where like there's a certain strain of beast that is just lizard men.
Yes. From love their lizard men and then immediately stopped loving their lizard men.
Yeah, I think it stopped at Sens.
Yep.
Yeah. There's another amazing piece of lore text here. Again, just drawn in blood on the wall. Ahead lies the eldritch womb. You shall be wounded and will perish at the hands of all the creatures born from the Dark One.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah. That's super, super good. There's just these two areas here, and kind of the gimmick here is those invisible enemies until you eventually do a thing.
Yeah. But those invisible enemies only pop up in one area. Like it's specifically in the screeching area. You're trying to find the item to get rid of them or make them visible in the false eye area, which I don't know about you, Gary. I would think that invisible enemies would be in the false eye area.
I would think so too, because that's why I think of false eye.
Yeah, and like them in Columbo.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you end up here, you get a save point and an MP potion store, which I barely ever used.
Yeah.
And this is a real linear area with these little side hidden rooms off to the side.
Yep. Hidden rooms that have amazing enemies. These night howlers, which are just headless monkeys that make like stock monkey noises and will poison you for some reason.
There are tons of these things too.
Yep.
Like this is kind of the common, mob here. What you're trying to do as you go through here is get this young dragon gem from a gigantic monkey thing.
Yeah, but it only pops up after you kill enough of them.
Yeah, you kill enough of the baby ones, and then a gigantic one shows up, Big Daddy, the Big Daddy one, and the again, it's exactly the same. It's just bigger to like intimidate you.
Yeah. There's a hidden room where you kill a hermit crab, and it drops the Ring of Dark Souls.
Yeah. No, there we go.
I tweeted a picture of that. And people were like, "Wait a minute, what?"
Yeah, there's your tie-in.
You jackals.
Yeah.
Nobody's giving a shit about like stuff being off topic, which is good.
Yeah, which is good. Yeah, because I mean, why would they?
Yeah.
So a little bit later in the area, you find these more lizard men and these dinogons, which I don't remember what these dinogons are based on the name.
Dinosaur dragons.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. They're just like the big hitters.
Yes.
There's an NPC here in this area who I think greets you at the start, but really is just kind of at the end. He like lays out the welcome mat for you. He is a servant to Necron, who is the Nightmare Lord of Belial.
Lyle.
Yeah, Belial. There we go. Belial is never mentioned again, except maybe I think by Oriel later on. And when you get to the end, your gift is one of 2 katanas.
Yes, and there's one of them that's more desirable than the other one.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they are though.
Now it's like Shrieking Tiger or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, something like that. Like, and the katanas are pretty fun. Like, I ended up using katana weapons for a little while, which is a little bit incongruous, but is cool.
Yeah. Well, they scale your speed up.
Yes.
Yep.
So eventually you go to this next area, the Screeching area. And this is much more ornate and in the Screeching area as opposed to the False Eye area, which these names got mixed up, right?
I think so.
Like, I think that's literally what happened, because Screeching is definitely something that happens in the monkey area. But this is actually full of the invisible enemies.
Yes.
And this is your first warp back up to the upper levels if you want to go back there in a long time.
Yeah.
So like if you're still looking for that way to get up to the water level, you know, to check out your healing spring, like this is the way that you get up there after that drop like 2 worlds ago.
There's I mark it as a secret room here, but I don't think it is. There's just a side room with Ariel, and she gives you a massive soul pod, like 53 points.
Yeah,
which is enough to really thumb the scale. I think this is where she like mentions Belial a little bit, and then says like, "Hey, one day we're going to do battle," but you're totally not. She's just there to help you out.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like a sequel thing, or if you can just start fighting her instead of talking to her.
Yeah, I kind of, you know what? I don't have any saves that will let me go and encounter her again because she disappeared.
And there's nothing on the internet about this game, so like, there's nothing really to say. Like, it hasn't been examined. So Cole, is this our chance to get on a Wikipedia? Like, yeah, no. But yeah, so eventually you want to place this dragon egg that you have onto this dragon shrine, which makes the enemies visible.
Yeah, which the enemies that are hidden here are hilarious. There are these, I forget what they're called, but they're horse demons with man faces.
Yes,
like a Brad Neely drawing, and then also these floating stone slabs.
Yes, yeah, which reminded me of that slab Pokemon from like 2 generations ago.
Nice.
Up until this point, like, it's not like the area is that dense with enemies. You're not going to be disadvantaged that much by having invisible enemies.
You see their shadows. I didn't try to damage them, or I couldn't tell if I was damaging them. But
yeah, you can fight them without it. But I never did it. Yeah. So you find another room full of these fire goat snake things. They're kind of like not chimera. What's that other thing?
Manticores.
A little bit like that, and then more Cunes. And eventually run into Necron.
Yes. I am Necron, and I am chaos. It is I who seduced the king, but I am also a warrior, and you will be my next victim.
Yes.
Like, the translation is so spotty.
Yeah.
like there's stuff like that's great, but then you look at the bestiary, and it's like, carries a curse field.
Yeah. like where?
I love Necron. Necron is great.
Yeah, Necron's really cool. So this is another kind of warrior fight.
Yep.
You know, he has a sword. He has these different elemental effects he'll shoot at you as well.
Yeah. And the coolest part, aside from just, you know, like, hey, this is a warrior fight after fighting 2 mages in a row, is his design. He is like a corpse that has been cut apart, but he's like floating, held together.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's just like telekinesis between his parts that's showing it. So that's super cool.
He's like photorealistic Rayman.
Yeah. Is that scarier than photorealistic Bart? No.
You
like, not remotely, but it's up there.
But yeah, this is a good fight. He'll hit you with cold and splashes, and you're not really like, there's not much you can do to spec against cold that I found.
No, I didn't. I never found any good cold weapons or cold. I found well, that's not true. I found some kind of water. Like, I didn't find a complete set.
It's like the caustic stuff, I think, maybe. But I think that's more for like acid damage than anything.
I think they might be the same though in the game, or they might protect against the same element.
Okay.
Or something. Like, I definitely found something that was ice themed, but I didn't find a full set.
Yeah.
But regardless of which, though, you fight him and you get to go to the final world until the actual last layer.
Yes.
The boss layer, which is the death world.
Yeah, and this is kind of the final exam area. It's filled with these undead, primarily.
So this is like a fort. This reminds me of those early areas in Kingsfield 4, actually.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like fortresses built into caves. And we're fighting lots of like presumably skeleton knights.
Yeah, that
By
are
skeletons,
decked out with armor. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of big dopes.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not like lithe knights like we've been fighting.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, you eventually one of them, if you kill them, they drop this plate that can be used to unlock one of two swords in this room later on. And again, that's another area where one sword is more desirable than the other. But I don't remember which one is which.
That's like the magic one on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not until like right near the very end.
Yep.
Yeah, but he like he talks to you and says, "Yes, we're the king's knights and we're going to keep you away. Like you're not welcome here."
Yes.
And if you just ran directly to him like I did, at least in my situation, I didn't notice there were other ones in the room. So when I was fighting him, I just got like two shot by the ones that followed me up to him.
Yeah, you have to fight these guys one at a time if you're able to. They're in like, it's weird how they place them because they're you can't draw them into hallways, but they are in huge rooms where like you can draw them into a corner. Like enemies don't have a very long aggro range in this game, so like you can just kind of fight somebody like across the room from somebody else and they won't jump in.
Yeah.
You're also introduced to these archers here.
Yeah, the hell hunters.
Yeah, and they teleport, which is interesting. As you're kind of fucking around with them, but they're all pretty fragile.
Yeah,
as well. So
these are the guys who will drop the warrior bow randomly. I was really frustrated because I got one to drop one before I went back and got the one off of the frog, and then I died like immediately after on my way to the next save point.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of continue further through just kind of pathways and the like. There are more of these guys,
narrow hallways with these enemies. They're too big to run around, and also they will like run you up against doors.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Which again, kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually, you make this. There's a little side path. You get some more Cunes. There are these tree monsters, tree ogre guys. But you're mostly making a beeline to the undead lair.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah. Is it supposed to be like layer, Lair, or Lay? Because it's spelled like layer as though like a cake, but
it is a layer for the undead. I feel like because the other name, because there's the Dark Castle layer.
Yeah.
I imagine it's probably meant to be Layer.
Yeah.
For consistency, but both work.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a cool set piece though.
Yeah, this is cool. This is barely like a level. Almost like this is just to show you this King Edward who, if there is like a man's folly to be found, then it's here.
Yes. And this is another puzzle mini boss similar to Abraxas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we run into him. He is a skeleton lord and you can go,
you can tell by his jaunty little crown.
He's like Skeleton King. I love him. And you can go there and fight him, but he's invincible.
Yep.
And somebody tells you this. Do you run into Fat Mole again?
Maybe, or it's either that or there's a note on the wall.
Yeah, somebody says like you need to find like the heart of his power or something like that.
Oh no, it's Ariel.
Yeah. So she tells you that, so he's invincible and you need to continue kind of around, but you need to run into his room to grab his key. Which I love that as like a little gameplay moment. Like he's invincible, but you can't turn back really.
Yeah.
Like you have to make this run in and run out.
Unfortunately, they won't follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to use that. Like there are these doors on the side, like that you can't open up. Like they're funneling you into this encounter.
Yes.
And you're using this key to get to the other side so you can not only get your save point, which is nice. I believe that's also a warp point as well. But you're also able to actually go in and kill his heart. Which is like embedded in the side of the wall. Yeah,
it's huge too. Like it's not like it's like this weird big flesh like thing. It doesn't look like it's the size of a person. I hate these corner turrets.
Oh God.
These things are really a pain to hit. Like I feel like their hitboxes weren't appropriate.
Yeah, they're like the demon eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I would use a valuable bow, durability trying to kill them, but like I would just miss when it seemed like I shouldn't have missed.
Yeah, I used up all your string juice.
Yeah, it sucked. But yeah, eventually you kill this heart and then you can go back and he's dead. It doesn't even make him like vulnerable. It just kills him.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool. And this is the king who kind of presided over this down here before he was corrupted by Necron and the demon king below. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, you off of a side area here after you grab your sword, go for the magic one. I think it raises your MP as well. There's a room where Ariel tells you they have to go and fight the Hallow Mage, and it's like slowly but surely there's been this notion introduced of like, well, if you defeat, like you're one step closer to being king, I guess.
Yes, like there's a little bit of that, like, but at no point did I think I wanted to be the king.
No,
of this area. It's really weird. Like it's just like what they assume. Everybody who shows up here wants to be the king.
Like this is a huge case of mistaken identity from the get.
Yeah, I'm trying to help out my grandma, dog. Like, I need to be your king.
I brought her some leftovers.
Yeah, I just want. I'm a Meals on Wheel. So at this point, you can make a boss go right to the boss, actually, which is kind of weird. Like this area, the way that it interacts with teleporters and the like, and these different these side rooms. Like if you go right to the boss, there's a little bit of your magic will get locked. That's a status effect we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
If you head to the gate of the dead through this way, you'll hear a voice that says, "Ha ha ha! I've locked your magic." But you just use an item to unlock it.
Yeah. Like there are two of them. It's like spirit books or something like that.
Yeah. If you go through the other way, you can go through this lingering curse layer to make it here. And there's some treasure. It's kind of like a library layer, and there's not much there other than just like fight some enemies to gain some levels and get a couple of items.
Fight some cool anime books that have arms reaching out of them. That's kind of nice. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. But and you go in through the gate of the dead in a way that doesn't lock your magic. So like if that's an advantage that you're looking to seek out, that's fine if you're out of that item, because you probably do want your magic for the Hollow Mage. Yeah,
because it's another AOE kind of thing. And like the bow works really well for this because of the range. And so this is a dark area, and most of the time this guy's backlit by AOE magic, so you're kind of aiming for his silhouette.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. This is a mage battle that is not. It's not the Call of Duty battle that we had earlier.
Right.
Like he is exclusively doing spells. It seems
and he's got these blood drenched skeletons running at you.
Yeah, that he summons, which complicate the fight. Yeah. But yeah, after you beat him, we beat all the enemies. We can make our way down to the actual bottom floor of the tower, which I think is an awesome moment. Like when you actually touch the floor in there, it's just like, oh wow, like I've been a long way. And you're going to the void layer here.
Yeah, I love that you can come here before you've killed all the bosses, because it kind of presents this Super Mario Land 2, like, oh, I'm going to Wario's castle and seeing how many coins that I have. Like different eyes on this weird bug-like alien face on the wall, like etched in, are lit up as you kill the holders of these great souls, right?
I was thinking like Super Metroid.
Oh, yeah.
Like the statue area in Super Metroid where the eyes glow. Like was the thing I thought of. But yeah, it does that. So it lets you know if you haven't killed everything you need to kill, you need to go back.
Yeah, and those eyes actually have symbols. Like it'll tell you, like, and those symbols match the doors of the realms that are associated with the souls.
Yep.
But if you have all the souls, it opens up in a super creepy, over-animated way.
Yeah. Into the void here, where you fight a boss here, Balron. And Balron has some dialogue that's some generic villain shit, where he says, "So you've done well to have come this far in that puny human body. Show me respect, and I will kill you painlessly."
He's asking you to kiss his ring.
Yes, exactly.
But he doesn't give you a chance to kiss his ring. He just starts attacking you. And this fight's intense.
Yeah. He's really, really tough. I just I had all my rings.
Yep.
And even though my spells didn't do very much damage, I still just did that. Like backed away, shot him with arrows, bow and arrow until he ran out, and then shot him with spells.
His spell is super slow. It's easy to dodge, and also it doesn't do very much damage. The consequence for failure is so much lower for engaging with him in range combat. Yeah.
Because with a sword, he can chop off, like at this point I had something like 4,000 hit points.
Yep.
And he can chop off 2,000 and change with one swing. Like he's insanely powerful.
Yeah.
So you're constantly you can go toe to toe and just like if you have a lot of healing potions, but I went the slow and boring route and just attacked him from range forever. Eventually, after you do enough damage, his armor bursts off and he becomes a true lizard form. Like he's a lizard man under there, because From thinks lizards are scary the same way that like I find pitcher plants scary.
Yeah.
Like somebody from had a bad lizard experience. So.
Yeah, you pay extra for that on Craigslist. No, so he just moves faster. Still has roughly the same moveset. Like he doesn't. I think maybe his combo gets like one hit longer.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Like he's still the kind of the same fight. Yeah.
And in a very Demon Souls thing, like after you kill him, the king reveals himself. And the king is like an ineffectual blob thing.
Yeah.
Like it's Demon Souls as shit.
Yep. He's a big blob. He has like these 3 goo arms and a big baby face.
Yep.
And he has an amazing voice. I might actually grab my Vita and pull this up for you.
If you have a save, like send that my way.
Or no, I can just grab it from YouTube of the ending, because he sounds like Homer in that Something Awful made Bart the General. Marge, you're breaking my heart. Yeah. It's like he says like, oh, you and that bothersome rodent. So your allies, I'll kill you. All will turn to nothing.
Who would have thought that Fat Mole was so important? Like that's it's so like, weird.
Hey, champ, you probably better not drink the water, huh?
And as soon as you hit him with anything, he calls for allies and begs you to stop.
Yep.
Which I love that, man. Like it is such a it's such a cool, like this is the, because as cool as like the anti-climax is in Dark Souls and Demon Souls and all the From games, like seeing at this level would have been amazing. Like or like this early in my gaming career.
Yeah.
Like have the actual, like having a coda boss, you know, that's really nothing. There's a weird thing though, even finding this guy, you have to walk a lot.
I hate that, because you can walk in both directions. This is a Gwendolyn hallway.
Yes, for infinity, and you just have to walk. You know, if you walk for a couple minutes, you're going the wrong way, and it just takes forever.
And then you have to walk the same couple minutes back before you make any progress.
Yep.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. It's a dumb idea. So afterwards, so you beat him. And he's really easy. You just do anything ranged, and you fight him, and he doesn't have very many hit points. You beat him, and you beat the game. You get this ending cutscene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're and you're saying, is it over? Where is it? I can't take another step. He's just like at the end of his rope looking for the crown. And right as he drops his sword, this white spirit shows up and asks you why you seek the crown.
Yes, and so you drop your sword. That you get the spirit says, I can grant any wish, or you can grant any wish with the crown, which again is very Dark Souls 2. And the next thing we see Roos overlooking over the tower, the crown next to him. It says, "This crown gave me the power to become a conqueror."
It's like, no.
So I think that's what happens when you get to the bottom of the Shadow Tower, is maybe what they're going for. Like there's nothing up to that point that leads to you being corrupted, but I think that's just the crown, right? Like the crown's evil and it's corrupting you. It's just because it makes more sense. That's all headcanon shit, but like I'll buy it, because the alternative is you just forgot about your grandpa and decided to become a monster for no reason. But everyone who's gone into the tower, this happens to, right? Like it happened to Apollos, like it happens. That's something that's happening here. And I think, and when you think of it in those terms, like it needed some more elaboration, but it's a really cool ending. It's like if Dragon Quest, if it forced you to take the Dark Lord ending.
Yeah,
like after beating him,
you're going after this artifact that, when it opened its eye, it destroyed the world, and obviously it is sentient enough to have a sense of self-preservation and to kind of like talk you out of doing it by changing your character or whatever. Yeah, or tempting you into this power, or literally just mind controlling you, because this thing is a Bailet and it's way more powerful than we are. Which is really cool. Like I love these weird nods to, like, even the king being that big demon that feels like he's stepped out of a cosmic horror game, and the alien gate that don't feel like they're from the same game. Like it's weirdly dipping into this stuff they're going to do to greater effect later. As a company, and it feels a little bit out of place here, but like is in a it's a cool, like, kind of sucking the air out of the room like tonal shift. No, I dig it. Like, I'm so happy that we played this, and I'm incredibly anxious to start playing Abyss. Me too. I double checked to make sure it ran and got the translate ROM and stuff. I really love this game. Like, this is one of my favorite games I played this year. Like, not the favorite. I'm not doing anything like that, but I'm really glad we did it. It is. And when I say this year, I don't necessarily mean 2016. Pedantry. I mean, like in the last year, roughly. It is, and that voice, I was not trying to make the voice of somebody who's mentally disabled. I was trying to make an intolerable nerd voice. That's what I wanted. But yeah, it is, I really loved this game. Like I had a lot of fun. It makes me want to go back and play all the Kingsfield games, even the weird first one that you have to translate. Just because like I dig this weird, it gets a lot of mileage out of the camera in a way that I'm skeptical of in some other games, right? Like, so the idea of a first person camera, the advantage is supposed to be immersion. Like, I'm seeing like with my own eyes.
And like that doesn't always work for me in like Doom or something like that. Like I think like a Doom action game that wasn't first person could be just as visceral, and I'd like it for the same reasons. But when I'm this disempowered, like this mix of kind of disempowerment and horror, and that first person camera really works for me.
Yeah.
Like it's we didn't really talk about individual moments, but like because they're not individual moments, it's a weird low level dread that spreads throughout the whole thing. Where like you're just going through these hallways, just hearing your footsteps, and then you just hear some new sound from a new enemy you've never heard before come from on the other side of the wall, and it's like genuinely pretty spooky. You know, for a game of this kind of low tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does a really good job of kind of keeping you right on the edge. Like you're never not worried about your resources. Like like gear definitely does. Like this is it kind of runs counter to From's MO later on, which is it's less about avatar power and more about player skill. This inverts that. Like your avatar does get more powerful as you go along in an appreciable way, much more so than in Demons or Dark. But no matter the case, like everything still degrades at roughly the same rate, and they introduce enough new stuff that kind of plays with that or accelerates the rate, that sense of tension. You're kind of always riding that edge. And like that for me was what really made this effective as like a stress machine.
Yeah, it reminds me in that respect of like it just has that elegance of like, because something I've been thinking about lately is like elegant versus inelegant difficulty, and it reminds me of Darkest Dungeon, where like that game is very difficult, but by the time your party gets wiped, the game is done. If you're playing, the way the game is, nudging you towards, you have enough of your B team built up to like it's not actually a big deal. So it always feels like a big deal, but it actually isn't. Like the game feels like you get that brief feeling of hopelessness while simultaneously actually being fine. And that's a great thing to kind of evoke, and like just the way the systems work together in this game is really impressive to me, while not being like, I mean, it's been done, like similar things have been done better, but it is just the way that everything is related and the way that it all kind of difficulty and resource interact just works really well.
Yeah.
And just in a way that feels like a step more complicated, or is a step more complicated than those two things, the way they interact in like traditional survival horror. Like, I'm not saying it's better, it's just novel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it leans more towards a systems approach. And that is like that is something, survival horror games are generally weak on systems.
Yeah. And creating an atmosphere almost entirely through systems is like, that's what, that is why games are special, right? Like you can evoke feelings not through just graphics or music or color palette. You can actually do it through gameplay and systems. And like that's why this medium is great.
Yeah.
So in this weird way, this game that like, PlayStation Monthly called a disgrace to everything, of glory that's ever come out of From, like there's a weird way that this is a really, really succinct and kind of beautiful example of creating an aesthetic through system and through gameplay. And like, that's awesome. I'm always going to call that out. And like the moment where I don't recognize that as great, then I might as well just like become a movie reviewer, or I might as well just become like just stop paying attention to games because I'm no longer worried about what games can do that's special,
And you should go to hexcrank.com to find out how I'm just a movie reviewer.
That's not what
I know.
You talk about system stuff in there too, but like, I mean, you know what I mean? It is just like, you can play a game that's just a movie, and I like those. But if you can create an effect without leaning on that stuff, like I think that's harder to do. To me, like I can imagine, like dissonant minor chord music makes me sound scary, makes me feel scared. I get that. That's easy and obvious. But it's harder for me to imagine what systems make me feel that way. And that's the triumph of Shadow Tower. So I loved it. Like, I think it's really great. It's not an unqualified recommendation because it is a sideways pill to swallow. But I really do love it.
Yeah, so I mean, we mentioned in the first episode, but like, we still recommend you go play this, even if you know what happens now. Like, if you're just checking this out and experiencing it vicariously, the best way to do it is where you can remap the controls, because that shoulder button stuff is egregious.
It's to make a big difference.
Yes, it'll make it much more playable. You're still going to have a lot of initial resistance, but I think that, once you start kind of like tuning into the frequency and hearing the real song that's happening here, it's going to feel unique. And it's definitely worth your time.
Yep. Cool. And next episode, is our appendix episode for Shadow Tower. We're reading your responses and some miscellaneary to Shadow Tower. If you have thoughts about Shadow Tower, it is too late. However, it's not too late if you have thoughts about Shadow Tower Abyss.
Right. Or about Titan Souls.
Yeah. So hit us up on those things. We have the rest of the season, and we're all eagerly awaiting Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
If you want to support the show, you can hit us up at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Even as little as $1 a month makes a huge difference. I know that's a cliche, but a lot of people listen to the show, and if each of them gave us $1, we would be sitting pretty. So
we would be making even more cool stuff.
Demonstrably, not in an abstract way. Like if everyone who's listening to this donated $1 to our Patreon, you would have new shows to listen to that are similar to this in quality and stuff, like very quickly. Yeah. It would make a big difference really fast. So
we have the ideas waiting in the wing.
Everything. So it is not like that. It sounds like a platitude. It's not a platitude. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah. Right. I mean, just real talk. I can speak for myself. I am cash rich, but time poor. And
I am time poor and cash poor.
Right.
So I need to be able to.
What frees up time to either not worry about where your next meal is coming from, or quit the thing that is currently giving you your meals.
Yes.
Right.
And giving you unfun ulcers and stuff. Like it would be. it is the thing that would. It would be really cool. Yeah. And if you want that, if you don't want it, I understand. Yeah. But I'm just saying it is within your power to make that happen. Real talk.
Yep. If you want weekly updates about things that are happening across the network, you can go to Duckfeed.tv/news. That is a thing I'm doing at least temporarily here until I determine what the right rhythm for that is. But that's a way to get information about happenings and special stuff and weird live show kind of things that are going on.
Yeah, indeed. And I think that's probably good. Yeah. There are things. Thanks for listening, and thanks for going on this weird little side journey for us. Yeah. And what should they do until next time, Cole?
They should play Shadow Tower. I really recommend it.
Yeah, I think so too. And hopefully I feel just as strong about Shadow Tower Abyss afterwards. I'm really excited to have that to look forward to.
Yeah.
So, Umbasa.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon